Welcome to another episode of Command Control Power. Jerry is reporting live from, it looks like, in the Notre Dame Cathedral.
No, this is the another
No.
another chapel.
Man. Yeah, it's near the Notre Dame, though, right? That's
No.
No. Okay. It looks like one I've been to, and it's gorgeous. Wow.
You got to stand in line and
Yeah.
buy a ticket and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's very pretty. You know what I noticed? So we went to Paris this last week with my wife and our youngest daughter, and what I noticed in general, just they went there. She's 17 now, and she went there when she was 7, so 10 years ago. There's so many more people traveling. Like, this is the middle of March, right? When you listen to the show, this was recorded in March. There's, when we went there, we could pretty much walk around and go to the Louvre, and we didn't have to stand in lines. Now there's just like the mobs of people. Mobs.
Is it time of year?
No, it's not even high season. It was cold the whole week. And, anyway, so I don't want to dwell on this too much, but I had mentioned on another show, like a couple of years ago, I took a European thing, and I had used Apple Maps exclusively for walking, and I raved about it, how dynamite it was. And it was just as good getting on the metro and getting me around Paris, or getting us around Paris. But I can tell you that there's a fellow who's on YouTube, and he reviews Apple devices, iOS devices, and we'll link to him in the show. At least I hope we will. Because sometimes I forget these things. But he had come up with the ultimate battery saver action. What do you call those actions? Snapshots? What are they? Shortcuts. There we go. And so, and it disables all this stuff. You just press the button. It's great. And so even with that on, and I have an iPhone 15 Pro Max, so not the latest one, but the one from last year, walking around using Apple Maps, you can't do it for the full day. The battery won't last. Even going into battery saver mode and doing that. Yeah. And, if you just want the basics, like maybe to check your email, it just can't do it. So I had purchased specifically for this, because I kind of knew about this, an external battery that uses MagSafe that you could slap on the back. And I'll put that in the show notes. And that worked really well, except that it was pretty expensive. Like $65. That's expensive for me.
Yeah. That's
10,000 milliamps, and you could do a couple of charges on the phone. So it's not one of the lighter ones, but it's, fairly thin. So that's what I needed to rely on towards the end of the day to get us around to the restaurants at night. And, 4 or 5 o'clock, the battery was really gacking. And I don't run things like Facebook and much social media. That was all turned off. And, again, I followed this express recipe that this guy had for saving battery, and it still didn't get me where he wanted to go. The other thing I bought for the trip was a multi-port charger from Anker. And I don't know if you guys have done much European traveling lately. Sam, I know you've gone to China, and Joe, you're always in rooftops in Spain. But if you use the prong that gets you to the 2 round prongs, for most of Central Europe, if you put in this Anker multi-charger, the prongs that you stick it into are always like heavily worn. So you plug it in and it just flops off the wall. Like this big heavy GAN chargers, like you walk in, you're like charging your devices, walk back in the room, and like everything's on the floor, and you're like, what? Like, like there's no like little kickstand to kind of like balance out the weight when you're using an adapter on the end of it.
Right, because it's sticking out so far from the wall.
Exactly.
The leverage there is
and it's weeping. Extra. It's weeping.
Yeah.
And the only other final thing I wanted to share was when people asked us where we were from, which occasionally happened, we just told them we were from Canada.
Nice.
that was like, and they're like, oh, Canada, and they would either like be really sympathetic towards us, or they would go like, yeah, Canada,
Right.
So it was awesome. Awesome. I just loved it, because there's no way to check,
Yeah.
So it was great. It was handy.
But you're not French Canadian, right? Because that would have been a problem for you.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
That's good though. That's good. I like that. It's a good move. Overall, the trip was great, though. You did a lot of walking, a lot of sightseeing.
It was nice. We went with some family friends who are godparents to our kids, and they're a little bit older. And yeah, there were some challenges. Because the thing is, you walk all over the place.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's like, even if you're taking the metro and the trains, nothing is like, oh, you get off the metro and you're right there. It's like, no, you have to walk 0.8 of a mile from there. So even if you think you're fit and stuff like that, on average, we were walking 7 to 8 miles a day, and that was even taking metros. So that was, a good chunk of walking. And the biggest challenge was we all didn't have the same pass. So there is a pass you can get. If you go to Paris, hit me up if you're listening to the show. And it renews every Sunday, and it's called this Navigo Pass, and it's special. And it only costs 35 euro, and it'll get you on everything for the week. Everything. Like you don't have to buy any tickets. And the people we were traveling with missed that missive. They thought they had it all down. And so we were kind of frustrated with, buying tickets and connecting and things like that. Yeah. Yeah. We weren't all on the same page.
Yeah. It's like when you're traveling through the airport and, most people have clear or pre-check or whatever the different options are. And one or two people don't, you're sort of like, well, see you guys later, well, hope you make it on the plane, that kind of thing. But realistically, you're all just going to wait in the same line at that point, as a group. Yeah. So you're missing out on some of the benefits otherwise you would have had.
Yeah. I said it was akin to herding cats.
Yeah.
If you've had like 6 or 7 cats and you all had to like get them, down a little alleyway and onto a train or something, it was kind of like that.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy traveling. Ashley and I, travel really well together. Yeah. We've had a lot of experience and all, but like with family, it's always more challenging. People have different ideas of, no, let's take the elevator. I mean, it's 2 flights of stairs. We've been waiting for 10 minutes for this elevator. Like, can we just, like those kinds of things like happen, the little paper cuts throughout every day, and some people are like, I need a break. Other people are like, I'm hungry, but at all different times. So it's true.
Right. And sometimes pacing, like when I get off at a metro stop, if we're going to Le Père Lachaise cemetery, I know how far it is. I mean, I get a good idea because and that was the only other, I was the air quotes navigator, right? So I was the person who everybody was relying on to look at the Apple Maps, right? And when I get out, I hit it. I mean, I'm not screwing around. I'm on vacation. I want to squeeze as much out of my vacation as possible. So this is not one of those things where you can kind of like saunter down the Champs-Elysees and, eventually get to your, it's like, no, we have to walk with intention.
Right.
Walk with intention.
I love it.
Yeah. Do you see the little guy on the thing is counting down? We have to cross now. Like we're missing the
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
My daughter sent me like a meme of like traveling with my dad on vacation, and it just shows the dad like 100 meters in front, just like cruising. And I'm like,
exactly.
That was me, manic me, out in front, and I was, sometimes the bad guy,
Yeah.
I might have been accused of being at 11 a few times.
Yeah, you were at 11. Oh man. Yeah, I can understand that. I can imagine.
So, I'm glad I'm back at work now where I could rest.
Yeah. Right. Well, so Jerry, the battery thing, I have, as you know, the latest and greatest with Apple Intelligence, the iPhone 16 Pro. And from day one, I just have not been impressed by the battery. Because when you look at it and it's like 4 p.m. or something, I'm at like 30%. I'm just like, that's what? And in the early days, I always chalk it up to new iOS version also on the new phone. So they have the logging enabled or whatever, and there's extra debugging code in there, and it's maybe some of the apps have little memory leaks and whatever, and so like you give it a little chance to maybe get better, and I just have not seen it get any better at all.
Right.
And I shouldn't have, I'm sure I could go in and manage different things and change settings and whatever, but I just feel like I shouldn't have to manage it to that same degree. It's like a brand new phone still practically. Right. It just seems silly to me. And so now I wonder in your case though, say more about that, but also with the maps, would it have helped to download like the entire, Paris area, like metro
Probably.
area, for for offline maps? So at least it's not downloading maps in the background all the time, but it still
Probably,
has
but it was
to,
still
yeah,
GPS and communicate. Yeah, do that.
right.
The other thing too was the ultimate battery saver recipe that this guy had. He said, turn off all Apple Intelligence, which I was able to do with that shortcut, during those times, because that's always feeding information. One other funny thing you can do is with this ultimate shortcut is you can adjust the white point. So you could have your screen turned all the way down. And if you dial down the white point, you can actually make your screen go completely black. And so we were in the middle of a day and we were at a restaurant, and I must have hit the white point button and I had invoked the shortcut, and I would try to get my phone to restart, because I thought like, okay, restart, we'll get some screen to be able to log back in. I couldn't log in. I couldn't see anything. And I was pressing, I did the up, down, and then power, that little one where you can kind of reset your phone. And there were a few times when I'm trying to get this to work where my phone's going, woo, woo, I've set up the emergency. So finally, the only way I could do this was give it to my 17-year-old daughter, who has like razor sharp eyes. And she was able to see this really dim screen and be able to type. I told her what my password was and type it in and get it to work again. It was amazing.
That is incredible.
I felt like such a dope.
I have a very important question to that story. Did you change your password afterwards, or does your daughter know your password now?
She probably still knows it.
Operational security. Good question.
Yeah. If you're wondering, Sam, I locked my Fansly page. So.
Oh, good call. Good call.
And my only fans,
Nice.
With my shirtless pictures,
Matthew Waples in the chat says that same battery issues with the 16 Pro. Really surprised compared to the 14 Pro I traded in. That was 2 years old. Yep.
Me too.
So yeah, we're all having the same issue. I mean, it's not an issue. Like, it hasn't affected me. Like, I do manage it, but again, I don't feel like I should have to manage it. And to have to carry an extra, like, I have the Pro phone. That should be one of the benefits, is better battery life. Speaking of like the Pro phone versus the others, have you guys been to an Apple store, or like you deal with customer devices and you pick up the non-Pro phone, like, and do you ever just like pick it up and think, man, that's an awesome phone. Like, it's so light. I was in the Apple store. We were in the mall. I rarely go to the mall, but I needed like some new pants and stuff. So we walked in the Apple store. Ashley needed like a little dongle for work or whatever. So we go in there, and as I'm walking by the 16E or whatever it is, and like the 16 regular non-Pro, I'm just picking them up. I like to just kind of know the current, setup or whatever. And I swear, like, my first impression was, oh, this is like a display phone. It's like an empty shell. It's like a demo, And I'm like, wait, but the screen, like, this looks like a real phone, I literally thought to myself, this is not a real phone, because it was so much lighter than my Pro phone.
Which one did you pick up?
I think it was a 16E, and then the regular 16.
The new one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's tempting, honestly, if Apple made it physically a little bit smaller, but even in the current lineup, I was thinking it would be nice. This sounds ridiculous, but to have like the more portable non-Pro phone as sort of because I have a phone right now. That's my camera. I have my backup phone. That's my camera on an everyday basis. And it's here if I like need a backup phone or whatever. So I justify it, Jerry. You'd be surprised I'm able to find a way to justify having and keeping the backup phone. But I thought I could actually just, trade that in. It still has a lot of value. It's the 15 Pro Max, I think. And, because I don't need that nice of a camera as my backup phone, and I could just buy the new, or like even the previous generation or something, non-Pro phone that would be my, like, if I'm going for a walk and I don't want this heavy weight in my pocket, but I still want a camera with me that's pretty decent. That's the idea, is like I could just use it as my, walking around phone or whatever.
My walking around phone. Yeah. Look at that.
Right.
He just can't wait to give Apple more money.
I need Apple Intelligence, I need all the intelligence features.
Yeah. So the tip is the tip with these batteries is just don't go anywhere.
Yeah, because, I mean, don't use your phone. Turn off the screen like you did. Then you have great battery life, right? You just turn it down so far you can't read it, and then you just have nothing. You don't have to interact with it because you can't see it anyway. So,
Well, I
Problem
have,
solved.
in my regular lifestyle, I have these short trips and I plug it in
Yeah.
in the car, or I'm home, and if it looks low, I put it on the, there's a charger on the counter, and that's what I use.
It's a
So
brand new
I'm
phone,
not in
so
these situations
it,
where,
it's silly to me though. Like why like why do I have to top off my phone during the day? It's sitting here on my desk. Like that's fine. I can plug it into whatever, but I'm using it for making phone calls to clients. It could be on for a couple hours here and there, depending on the day. Sometimes much longer, but it just doesn't seem like using the phone as a phone should be like, well, it's really sweating now. It's like really draining the battery so quickly. But
Doesn't make any
I don't know.
sense. It's
No,
bulky and it kills the battery, and Apple Intelligence is not awesome. So what
no,
else?
it's actively bad. I mean,
Yeah.
this is like old news, but I'll get these summaries that are like the opposite of what the thing was, or like, when somebody says like got it, got it, thanks, or THX, because they're trying to save time or whatever.
Yeah.
And then my phone summarizes it as like expressing gratitude for like blah blah blah. Like, is that better than just telling me what they actually said? It's just so weird.
That's
I don't
funny.
get it.
Uses
And then
too
one of
many
them,
big words. Like,
yeah. No, and then one of them, like, it was an exchange with a client, and I forget what the situation was, but it was like, okay, like I'll follow up with you next week. But the summary is like scheduled appointment with Joe for Tuesday, or so. It's like it's the wrong. It's actually wrong. It's not only like unhelpful, it's actively bad. So it's
so what are you
inexcusable.
saying? Apple Intelligence isn't good?
Yeah, I mean, is that the first you're hearing of it?
Ah, geez, wow. Hey,
news
Joe,
to Jerry, apparently.
Yeah.
both you and I use Ring Central. Have you noticed that I don't know what I did to turn it on, but if there's a notes section now in Ring Central, and all of a sudden I'm looking at it and it was an attempted AI summary of a call that I had with a client.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So it's
Well,
doing that now.
no,
I don't know.
I haven't noticed that, but I'm leaving Ring Central finally after like 15 years.
Wow.
Where are you
Because
Where are you
going?
going?
I'm going to phone.com. I heard about it at Aces a number of years ago, and I wasn't really in the need of a new service at that point. But the reason I want a new service now is the thing I've been asking for years. I have a small team. It's me and Tim right now. It's 2 people, and clients will text the office phone. And Jerry's on my team. Sorry, Jerry. Jerry's Jerry's the pinch hitter, and yes, but actually, this is something I've thought of because it would be really useful to be able to like, quickly add a user to the phone system or share, do some. So anyway, what I really want is a text messaging that we can share. So client texts the office phone, and right now that goes to our email, and then I will like select just the text of that message, reply back, change the reply to the client to the to address for the client, whatever. It's just complicated and stupid. Like they text me and they get an email in response, which half the time they may not even be looking for and they may not see and all this stuff. I should be able to quickly text back from my main number.
Yeah, it's too much jerking around.
Yeah, Ring Central has a feature that's in the idea stage that has been that way for like years now. There's all these threads. Every time I go looking for it, I find the developer thread and the user thread and the idea thread and all this stuff, promising it's like in development. There's even like instructions to enable a feature that isn't actually there, doesn't work, doesn't exist, but you'll find instructions to do it. So I'm just tired of waiting for them. So I thought I'm going to switch phone companies, forget it. And phone.com is going to be cheaper than Ring Central. And they actually have this feature. Come to find out it's in beta. So they sent me the test flight invitation for their new app. I'm like, okay, but it's in whatever. Maybe it's just in beta in the iPhone app, but I think it's part of their web interface. It's built in. But the idea is just that like Tim and I can share the same inbox. Client texts us, we just reply back and we both see it and it's done and it's easy. It's like, that's how it should be in a small team like mine. So yeah, I'm jumping ship because Ring Central keeps adding all this other stuff that I really don't need. And it's just, the app is overcomplicated for me.
But you haven't tried it, or you have tried it?
Phone.com?
No, the feature that you
No,
need.
I haven't. Oh, no, they don't have the feature that I need. They don't have shared SMS.
No, you're saying it's in beta right now. Have you tried that beta?
Well, so I just got signed up, just did the like initial enrollment. So I haven't tried the feature yet, but I have temporary numbers for phone.com. So I'm going to try it with the temporary numbers before I can get my money
All right.
back if
So
it doesn't work.
you're let me get this straight. Sam, are you hearing what I'm hearing?
What? Tell me
Well,
what
he's making a change without really solidifying whether they can deliver what he's looking for.
Well, yeah, there's a 30-day money back guarantee. So I prepaid and I went through the onboarding. I have the account. Now I have to actually test it. I haven't ported the numbers yet, so I still am using Ring Central. This is all like as of yesterday as we record. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm going to test this group SMS feature with my temporary number for the company, and like have Tim testing it as well. And just to make sure that it works the way I'd expect. But they like when I asked this on Slack, somebody mentioned that phone.com can do this. So that was my first indication that it was a colleague's recommendation, not just like promises from the company sales team,
I see. Well, that's good.
Yeah, I mean,
And
so the phone version is in beta, but you're hoping the web interface.
Yeah, that's my sense of it. It's like there in the web interface. So I'm hoping that's all like the actual feature's not in beta. Because again, months ago, colleagues had recommended this. So I'm assuming like people are using it. It's working fine. We'll see.
Jerry, when are you making the move?
well,
Yeah, I'm
Joe,
never
you're
first to things. This is crazy. I'm the first one to switch. Yeah.
Joe, you're probably saving some money too, because I know you were paying a healthy amount of change to Ring Central every month. Do you care to share that with the
Ring Central is
boys
like
and girls?
40 something bucks a user per month, and then phone is like I think it's going to be like 30 per user. The other thing is that Ring Central, for whatever reason, to achieve the way I wanted to have the call handling done, like the auto attendant and whatever, whatever, that stuff, it has to be done through like what they treat as an extension, which is a user. So like I'm paying for a third person. It used to be that, we had Judy on our team. So we had 3 people. So her extension was kind of like the auto attendant extension. But the only like now, even though it's 2 people, we still need to pay for the third user in order to have the auto attendant work the way we want it to. And I'm pretty sure so far, I think I can achieve that with just 2 users in phone.com. So I'm saving the cost of the third user and like 10 or more dollars per month per person. So it's
there's your new iPhone right there.
Exactly. Now I'm going to justify a new iPad. If you're ready for that, I can justify real quick a new iPad.
Do you find that
really? Are you serious?
I'm going to try. Yeah. So I haven't bought one yet, but I thought you'd get a kick out of this, especially. So this is what, so I thought to myself, I'm on my screen all day. I have a 27-inch monitor. I could really use a little sidecar screen, right? I could use a little side screen there. So I looked at these little monitors that you can get on, there's some decent like high res monitors that are smaller and that can kind of sit off to the side or under or different things. And I had all these different ideas. And I thought, man, if I'm spending like $400 on a new monitor, I should just buy a new iPad and use it as a monitor. So there's my justification, because it's a whole iPad. It's a whole iPad, right? It's like an addition to a monitor. Then I thought to myself, wait a minute.
It's smaller though.
I have an iPad right here. So this is my, cracked screen. Client says, I don't want this, and this was like came from the old office that we erased it, decommissioned, whatever. And it just sat here with the cracked screen. So then I remembered I had that. And so I looked up online, what does Apple charge? They charge like $500 to like repair the screen of this model, like original iPad Pro 11-inch. So I'm like, that's just insane. Like I'll just buy an iPad mini or something. And then I looked into a local place. I thought, there's all these you break, I fix, or like, they break, you fix, or whatever. Everybody breaks something, everybody fixes something.
Model doesn't sound like it works very well.
No, yeah. We break, you fix, good luck, yeah. So I'm looking at these, and then I thought there's actually a local Mac shop here, and they do like they have their website that has, screen repair and select your model and do this and that. So I'm like, okay, so I just sent them a quick email. I said, I have this model. Do you guys, can you repair it? What would the cost be? I don't even care about turnaround time. Like, I'm not in any kind of rush. This is for testing and maybe going to be my new monitor, whatever. And I said, this is the model number. Do you do this and what's the cost? and do you use Apple parts? Not even that it was a disqualifier. If they don't use Apple parts, I guess it's probably fine too, right? So those are my very simple questions. No response. No response whatsoever.
No response whatsoever.
Waited like three weeks, followed up. Hey, just following up, no response. So that's it. That's where I left it. But this is just this is like the state of the art, in our industry, is basically like a lot of people literally just don't reply to email. Apparently, maybe they didn't receive my email. I don't know.
Or you think like if they don't want your business, they just ignore you?
That's the thing. It's like, couldn't they just reply back and say, we don't really do that? Like, I reply back to people.
Yeah,
I
do
say,
too.
Yeah. Like,
so what's the VIG on the new one you're looking at?
wait a minute, Jerry. It was the San Chappelle. Isn't that what I said?
Maybe.
Okay. We're going to go back to the
Yeah, we're gonna have to go
videotape.
back to the tape.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. What was your question?
No, you said Notre Dame.
No,
Yeah,
and then
but
I
then
said San Chappelle. Didn't I, Sam?
Yeah,
Thank
you did.
Yeah, you
did.
did. Yeah.
Waple says I should order the repair kit from Apple. That's an
I
interesting.
agree. Do that, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait. So what? Oh, the repair. Yes. Okay. So they would just send me the screen and the tools and stuff, and I just do it myself.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a great idea. So
But-
Sam, you've tried that?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm just agreeing with Waple. So.
Waple says, has anyone tried it yet? Sam's like, yeah, do that. Okay.
I'm just like, that's a great idea.
I'll be the
I
tester.
repaired my own iPad once years ago. I did a really terrible job, but I did it.
Give it to
Richard?
Joe. He'll try anything. Joe, but here's
I
the thing.
will.
What model is this iPad? Because they're all over the place. Like, is this?
Yeah, so it's the original iPad Pro 11-inch.
Nah, you
So
don't
it-
want that. Don't you?
Why
you don't wanna
not?
repair? Because
What
I
do you
don't think
mean?
it's
Oh,
worth
for
it. What's
the cost? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, Richard Russell says he really likes his iPad M4 as a small second device to work from. That's the other thing too, is like if it didn't have a broken screen, I think I would actually use it more casually, like, and be able to just do some quick email triage and stuff. I mean, I use my iPhone for that, but
You got to be like Richard Russell and get the M4.
Yes.
You can't jerk around with broken screens.
yeah, because I want Apple Intelligence as wrong as it is to just be wrong much faster. That's what I really need. Like, quickly give me the wrong answer. That's what I'm looking for from my Apple devices.
Just don't even get me started on that. Like the other day, I'm like, call my daughter, and it's like, I found 16 matches. And I'm like, what?
Exactly. Yeah, forget Siri too. Like every time, anything, I mean, all the devices are lighting up, the wrong device is answering. They're saying they can't do that. My watch says, I can tell you something on your iPhone later if you want. Like it's all just a big mess of unhelpful things lately,
Totally.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and I'll use voice dictation, and I'll say, regards, Jerry, and it'll put my name correct, and I'll go yes, and then it'll change it to the G.
Yeah, then it's just punking you. It's like
flips back. Yeah,
It's punking you.
Yeah. It's really funny how bad it is. Like it's just laughable. And we've been saying this. I mean, if you go back to our show from 5 to 10 years ago, I think we were saying, man, Siri's getting worse by the year, and it's like amazingly still getting worse. Like I just didn't think it was possible. It's just,
well, 5 years
it's
ago, they
sad.
hired that John, whatever his name is, Gennaro Giancosa or whatever from Google, and it never got better. What's he doing?
I don't know.
That's his job.
Yeah. This is, it's actually kind of interesting to me because I have this whole theory about like the first mover advantage is highly overrated in the tech industry, right? You think these companies that get there first are going to be entrenched and they're going to be like the go-to for 20 years or something in this new technology. And the one example is, like VR and AR and stuff. Like all these companies, Google and Meta, like they're right there at the leading edge, but it just hasn't caught on. And I really don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing for Apple. They took a really long time to release the Vision Pro, and I think it has a lot more potential than those other platforms. That whole area is not really disrupting the world yet. But anyway, people think that the first mover advantage is like a real advantage in business. And I think Apple has proven over and over that you don't have to be first. Like you wait until the technology is either like developed to a certain point where, now it's going to be good and reliable, or you find a new way to leverage it. Like with multi-touch, the iPhone with multi-touch was like, that was a huge innovation in the iPhone, and it's, and then the iPad and so on. But there were tablets before the iPad, right? That were not, like not good. And then the iPad with multi-touch is actually good. So it's not about being the first mover, but I think it can give you like, it can actually undermine your overall success also. And I think that's the problem with Siri. Apple bought Siri from, what is it? Stanford Research Institute, SRI. They started off as like a, intelligence community funded, research wing or whatever. But so anyway, SRI developed Siri, and Siri was an app, and Apple bought the app and bought the team and like integrated that stuff really early. Like they were one of the first assistants, and the demos were really impressive back then, where one of the main features was it's context aware. Like you can say, like how long does it take to drive to San Francisco and what's the weather there, and so like, and it would know you're still talking about the same place, whatever. Like that was an impressive thing back then. But because they were so early, I think that they like have systems and frameworks and things that they're now like really, that are really holding them back. And it just occurs to me like that's probably one of the main reasons that this hasn't been developed like properly much sooner, is because they're kind of like hamstrung by having it there, versus having nothing and developing like a really coherent framework that they can then make extensible over the years and make it better. Instead, I just think that they're stuck with like whatever pile of stuff came from this like original project. I'm sure they've refreshed it quite a bit over the years, but I don't know, maybe that's part of the reasoning. But we're still
No, I agree. I agree. Actually,
difficulties.
as you were talking, it makes sense because there are some other areas of our industry which are similar to that. The first ones, and they were the biggest and the greatest, and then they had old infrastructure in a lot of
Yep.
different ways, and that makes total sense, Joe. I think, I mean, I'm trying to find like the reason why it's just actually getting worse though, and not
I
like
know.
maybe not improving at the pace of others because they're new and they have newer technology, but how is it going that way, straight down, and just
Yeah.
like it's gotten really bad for me lately to the point of major frustration.
Yeah, but
Right.
now you got these nice little slider buttons to turn it on, and when you say something, you get the flashing illuminated thing around the perimeter of your phone. It's really great.
What a wasted opportunity, though. I mean, they should have waited to release that interface until the new Siri was ready, because now everybody is just like, okay, well, this is still stupid and bad and unhelpful, So now there's no like, I mean, are they going to change the color palette of the new interface? Like, what are they going to do next time when it's actually worth trying? Because you need to, like, to me, that was an opportunity for people to say, oh, it's different now, and I'll give it a try again. And now people are like, oh, it's different now, and it's still terrible. I'm never going to look at Siri. I'm never going to, yeah.
John G. Andrea is his name. 5 years ago, he came from Google. He was doing the AI over there, and he really fixed it here.
Yeah, he really fixed it. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my.
I mean, my original theory was that Apple is so privacy conscious that, their hands are tied for that reason, because, they refuse to collect or store or even just, gather any data about you, like in order to answer your questions. They like, well, I don't know when your next appointment is. I don't want to know. Like, that's none of my business, like they're so privacy conscious. But I don't, I mean, that's part of it. But again, it's like, have all the information you want to answer my question. Like, but whereas Google like has all that information, and they feel more ownership about everybody's data, and so like the Google has no problem just like collecting every detail about you and building a profile on you and knowing everything that's happening in your life in terms of phone calls that are going through Google Voice and calendar appointments and everything else, that they actually can answer those questions very easily because they've had the data from the beginning. Apple's like, well, we want to be really careful with your data, so we don't really want to know. And and now it's kind of like, well, we actually don't know, and we kind of need to know.
So that's the trade-off. I mean, honest question, which would you prefer, the Google route so that it could work better? I mean, it's a tough call, I think, in a lot of ways, because you become the product in that sense, and they collect so much information about
Right.
you, but I don't know that I'm comfortable with that.
Exactly. And how do real people think about it? Because I've always been of that mind. Like, I don't like to be the product. I don't like Google to just, be like in my business, and collect all this data. But like, how do real people think about it now? They're like, well, I can ask Google questions and they answer. So I'd rather just be able to like have a thing that works than to be like super secret and private, but like not be able to use these services.
But that was the promise, right? Apple was supposed to be on device, right? Nothing was supposed to be in the cloud.
Yeah.
It was supposed to do all this AI on device. So it's just it's a big hunk of garbage. Sam, I just realized you're at Lumen. I just noticed your background.
Oh,
It
yeah.
took me-
Yeah,
took me
I've moved to Kier, so this is my new spot.
the entire show to realize half the show to realize where you were. Yeah, it's very nice. So if you're not watching the YouTube show, you're missing, first of all, my various states of old age, and you can see handsome Joe who
Jerry-
just got a
Jerry aging before your very eyes,
Yeah, Joe
throughout the
got
show.
a haircut for his sister's wedding, and Sam's at Severance, and he's at Lumen, Kier.
That's
in the
funny.
town of Kier. So tell me something you like, Joe, like Backblaze. Tell me something good.
So we've got a quick comment from MC Services in the chat that Siri is getting better, but maybe it's about knowing how to better phrase things, kind of like how you learn how to search properly on Google. Which, by the way, I think it's interesting. Like, I feel like Google search is getting worse for me. Like, I don't know how to search properly on Google anymore, and I think that I need to learn how to like AI search now, and it's a whole new skill. So it's kind of related to that.
Maybe you're getting old, Joe.
Maybe that's it. I'm not, it's hard to stay with the program,
Yeah.
Just for the record, I used it on the trip, and for my business, I use Chat. I don't pay for it. I don't subscribe to the service, but I use Chat GPT all day long to write to my clients.
That's the other ironic thing about Apple Intelligence is you can ask it to check with ChatGPT, and the answers are actually worse than just using ChatGPT. So it's just bad in every possible way. All right, I've got one more theory on Apple Intelligence, then I'll harp on Backblaze. One more theory is that it's actually the problem with all of this is that none of it was ready. It's so obvious now that none of this was ready for iOS 16. Like, that's old news now, and that was like. The Apple Intelligence features, like you said, Jerry, the on-device stuff that's supposed to work properly, the private cloud stuff that's supposed to work properly, the new Siri that's supposed to work properly, none of those things were actually ready for prime time. Instead, we got make your own emojis, which look like any other crap you design through generative AI, or worse, actually, right? Yeah, I'm fired up now. That was what we got, and now the big release was the summaries, which everybody hated, and I gave an extra chance, and now I also really think are actively useless. So none of that was ready, very obviously, right? So why did they release it? Because they had to, because of shareholder primacy. We have this concept in this country where, if you have a publicly held company, you owe it to your shareholders to like turn a profit for them. And when you have like the rest of the industry trending toward AI, you have to do something in that area, or you're not doing right by your shareholders. So Apple doesn't normally release things that like they just feel like they have to release. They wait until it's ready to release it, typically. In this case, they kind of were forced into it. I mean, do you remember leading up to WWDC last year and like the iPhone announcement last year? Everybody's waiting. When's Apple going to do their AI thing? And then like the name Apple Intelligence leaked, and wow, isn't that such a smart name? And like all the marketing stuff is so smart. The actual product wasn't there though. And so, I mean, all of this was leading toward like, their shareholders demand that they do something, and they're expected to do it. You can make the case that like, the users expect it, and Apple really, wants to make money to continue to be a viable enterprise or whatever, but they didn't have to release anything. They didn't have to comment on AI in the first place, but they have to in order to please their shareholders. So that's my, soapbox about capitalism and shareholder primacy. It's, putting the shareholders above everything else, it was never a good idea. And
well, I hope they're happy now.
Yeah, exactly. This is what you got. Is that what you wanted?
I'm a shareholder. Yeah. I want a foldable phone. I wonder if I can start pushing for that and get it a little earlier.
Yeah, as a shareholder, you can demand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter how
All
many
right,
shares.
I'm off my
All
soapbox. I
right.
don't know. Does anybody else want to talk about Backblaze or something else? Because I don't. I've
Now
been
I'm waiting for you guys to talk
talking
about
too
Backblaze.
much.
This is something I got to hear about from the people
All
out in the
right.
field.
So Backblaze had an issue a couple months ago now that hit a little close to home. I was working on my parents' computer, and my dad said,
Literally.
"Oh, by the way, well, I wasn't even on the computer. I was talking to him about something else, whatever." My dad said, "Yeah, by the way, this Black Bay, nobody can pronounce it, right? It's just Blaze. Okay, yeah, Backblaze. I can't even pronounce it now. It's popping something up. I'm like, really? So I go to my Watchman monitoring, green check mark, whatever, no
Oh, there you
problems
go.
found, right?
You're all
Yeah,
set then.
still
Yeah.
paying for Watchman on with
Watchmen,
that.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, really, Dad? Okay, so I go on the computer and I see this thing pop up, and it's like, I forget. I have my notes here. So there was an issue with Backblaze on that computer. So it says Backblaze not backed up, learn more, whatever. So it says it reports a missing BZ volume ID on slash, on my root volume, right? My startup disk, their startup disk, my parents. I'm like, that's weird. Okay, so I uninstalled, restarted, because they want you to restart in between. I don't always do that, but in this case, I made sure to do that. And then I reinstalled Backblaze. It never finishes analyzing the drive. It's like analyzing drive. So it just is analyzing drive and progress bar and never finishes. You could leave it for hours. They don't have that much data. Tried that whole process twice. Okay, so that's weird. So I go through the help, get some more thoughts, whatever. I have to contact support. This is my parents' computer. Like, I should never have to contact any support for my parents' computer. Like, it just shouldn't happen. So I contact Backblaze support, and they gather logs or whatever, and they investigate and they tell me what to do. They say, the problem was that they gave me some things to try, going into the Backblaze settings, reselecting your Macintosh HD because it's not selected. I'm like, why would
Defrag your hard drive? Was that one of the things?
no. So they have me reselect my Macintosh HD, and I'm like, why would it be unselected? So even though it's deselected and you're going to click it to select it, it actually gives you an error saying you can't deselect it. So it's like already an error state that should not really ever happen. So I'm like, this is all very weird. So they say you can control click that, and then that will let you click it or something. Okay, that didn't work. So then they say, was your Macintosh hard drive ever a time machine destination? And I'm like, no, like, why would it ever be a time machine destination? I'm like, what are you, crazy? So I go in there, I go into the time machine settings, and there's my Macintosh HD listed as my backup destination. Of course, it's not doing anything. It's not working, but my parents' startup disk in their iMac that I set up for them has the startup disk listed as the time machine backup destination.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've seen that once before, and I was like, this is weird. How did this weird thing happen? So I was like, okay, this is the second time ever I've seen it in I don't know how many years probably. They actually told me that Backblaze support said we've seen an issue with, and I forget if they mentioned Sonoma or Sequoia. My parents are running Sonoma 14.7.4 in that case. And apparently it's something to do with that version or with Sonoma or maybe Sequoia. So Time Machine can somehow add your Macintosh hard drive, has nothing to do with like version, the version history or the local backups or whatever. It's just a bug. So that was what was stopping Backblaze from working at all.
That's kooky, man.
Isn't that insane? Yeah. And also, I installed it last Christmas and set it up from scratch, and it has not been backing up until now. And I'm willing to admit that publicly because it was my parents' computer. But, like, Watchmen said it was fine. Okay, so that was my reference.
No, there you go. Mm-hmm.
So, okay, and now if you look in the details in Watchmen, it shows selected for backup 0. So it's doing everything you told it to do. It's backing up nothing of nothing, okay? And it's green check mark. So I wrote Watchmen. I'm like, hey, this is an error state, actually, right? If you have a backup configured, Backblaze is installed, I don't care if Backblaze says it's happy. It's got 0 selected for backup. If you see a
Did
0,
Watchmen ever get back to you?
I don't know. I don't
Imagine how
remember.
many Apple devices you could buy if you got rid of Watchmen.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go there because
Gary's
I
on
do
a
like
soapbox
Watchmen
now.
for other reasons, but I'm
Right.
just like, I know that you think that this is a green checkmark state, but like if you have 0 bytes selected for backup, that's an error. Like I don't care if you intentionally set 0 for backup, that should be reported as an error.
You're saying if the drive, if it has a destination drive and it's
Yeah,
0, right? Not
yeah.
like if it's just 0 in general, but if it has a destination drive and it's 0.
Well, if it's I mean, so in this case, there's no destination; it's just Backblaze. But it's like there's like no drive selected for backup, and therefore 0 data encompasses your backup. So it's just like you told us to back up nothing, and that's exactly what we did. So it's your problem, buddy. Like no, I like
Green check.
yeah, green check. No, that should be an error state. Like that's maybe just one man's opinion, okay? But like
But present day, that it has been an error for a while, but that's not even what's going on.
Okay, so
right
that
now.
was my
Yeah.
thing 2 months ago. Then I had the BZ file IDs issue. So my first instance of this was a different client where it was actually an issue. So they had the thing everybody's facing right now is an issue where Backblaze is reporting to you that it's not installed properly, and the BZ file IDs thing is, I forget what the terminology is not present or is too large, I think is the issue. So actually my first instance of that problem was legitimately that file was too big. So I have a server that it's a Mac Mini and it has a promise RAID, and Backblaze says unlimited backup, we'll back that up. So sure enough, they've been doing that to their credit for many years, backing up, terabytes of data on this server. And until it stopped working. And so I went back and forth with support and found that, I basically had to uninstall Backblaze, reinstall with a new license, and do a full backup over again. The only way to reduce the size of the BZ file IDs .dat file is to start your backup over again. And over the last several, however many years, probably 5 years, maybe more, this server has been backing up with the same Backblaze instance, and that file just continues to grow. There's no way to reset it other than wiping out your backup and reinstalling it. I said, surely I'm not going to wipe up my backup. And they said, well, you just use a new license. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I did in that case. That's been now like several weeks rebacking up. So I'm keeping the original license. I'm paying for it for the client, and because we include that with their plan. And I started that backup over. So that was that issue. So then we had an issue where, thanks to Watchmen, we found out that none of our Backblaze backups were software was updating. So the backups were updating. The backups were good, at least as good as you can rely on Watchmen to report.
0 bytes, but it's good.
Yeah, 0 bytes, all good. But they were not updating. So Jerry, you brought this to my attention that there was a fix. And I think it was Tim Pearson who shared the fix with you. This was like now several months ago. And the problem was it wouldn't update from whatever version it like topped out at the time, and it wouldn't update to the latest. So when I finally got around to fixing this, I made a script that would check the Backblaze version. If it was lower than a certain version, it would download an update to the latest. At that time, the latest was now the issue that everybody's having with Backblaze, which is version, does anybody have this handy? 9.2.0.836. So I thought that I screwed Backblaze up for all my clients, because then recently, like after I did this remediation to manually update through a script to the latest version, which at the time, again, happened to be 9.2.0.836, then I started getting reports that, hey, my Backblaze says it's not installed properly. And I'm like, oh man, I just sent this script out to fix the outdated Backblaze installations, and I've just basically borked all my clients.
Screwed the pooch.
Yeah, and like where I would need manual intervention, because Backblaze support says, okay, no problem. Uninstall, restart, reinstall, restore, it's like all and then go in and option click the restore options button and all this stuff. I'm like, I have to go to each machine now because I sent this script out. Oh my God. And then I started seeing reports from everybody else, and I'm like, did I screw up everybody's Backblaze in the entire Mac admins community? And I'm like, that can't be. So thankfully now I understand the situation. And if anyone wants to jump in there and take it from there, do you know what's going on with this, Sam? I know Jerry's fully in the loop on this.
I know only what I've heard from you guys, and I relayed to Matt a little bit. So I need to check with him to see what he's even done about this, if anything.
Yeah, there's a great thread or channel, Backblaze channel on Slack, and you can get the whole poop there and also the fix. The thing about it is that there's a couple of representatives from Backblaze that are participating in that channel now, including a coder and the guy who's supposedly heading up, I don't know what their official titles are. And it appears that they're doing their job in earnest, and I'm sure that they are. And they've contacted several people on the Backblaze channel that says, we'd like to set up an appointment with you so you can talk to us and give us some feedback. Right. And I always hate this. What do you mean?
Never ask Jerry for feedback ever.
What do you mean feedback? Just make stuff that doesn't screw up. What do you need to hear from me? Do you need, what read the thread that's in the Backblaze channel on Slack? There's no need, there's no reason to ask people about this.
Yeah.
We need your valuable input. It's no, just fix it. Make it so that this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need to talk to me. I know nothing.
I really don't want to talk to you.
So,
my feedback,
I did get contacted, and I said, talk to Tim Pearson. I mean, I don't want to participate. No, thank you. And talk to Tim Pearson because he can give you some valuable feedback. And they said, oh, well, we already, have a time set up with Tim Pearson. I'm like, great, and again, I don't fault this person because she was told to do this, but I think the only reason why they reached out to me is because I posted a little GIF or GIF, depending on what side of the fence you're on, of Nancy Kerrigan, when she got her leg whacked and she's saying, why? And so they figured out, this guy's a troublemaker. Let's try to talk him down or whatever.
Yeah, they figured you out.
Let's see if we could send him some stickers and, talk to this guy, and maybe, he won't post Nancy Kerrigan gifts anymore on her memes. But I marvel at this. We want you to help us do our job better.
Help me help you.
Tim proactively gave them great feedback in that thread. I don't even think they asked
I saw
at that point. And he was like, hey, here's the thing, don't cost us so much in terms of time by pushing out a bad update, causing us to have to intervene with every single one of our customers.
Or don't make it cost more than we're getting in remuneration for recommending your product to begin with.
Exactly. Right.
And everybody
set the bar there. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody spent a lot of time and a lot of effort to fix this for clients. I know I did. I know you did. And, coming up with fixes and then dialogue back and forth. What do you need? This is not good, folks.
Well, they must know it's not good also, because it doesn't just affect our managed customers. It also affects all the Backblaze customers on the Mac who accidentally ended up with that version that they pushed out. If it happened to update to that version before they caught it, because this affected a lot of people, like I said, my timing was just pretty bad in that case, because I was specifically that was the latest version when I wrote my remediation to update if it hadn't already updated to that level. So I was checking for that version. And if it's old in that version, I was updating exactly to that, to the latest, which happened to be that version at the time. So, I pushed that update out because all the clients hadn't updated. So what was the original problem? Basically, Backblaze stopped updating. Watchmen started reporting months ago that Backblaze was not up to date. I figured, okay, it'll eventually update. I waited months. It never updated on its own. And I finally did a remediation to force it to update. And at that time, the update was bad. So they had an update that wouldn't update. And then they had an update that caused an error to stop backing up.
That's a perfect storm, man. That's so bad.
Yeah.
Can we set up an interview with you, Joe, to
Yeah.
maybe help us do better?
I will give them feedback. Because this is the feedback I have. They could just listen to this. I mean, it's ridiculous that how does this stuff go to production? Like how does an update go to production that isn't able to update itself anymore? That happened months ago. How does an update go to production that stops the exact thing that your product is supposed to do, which is backing up people's computer? I mean, somebody's going to sue them for lost data at some point.
Did you get the email? And this hasn't even been mentioned in the Slack channel, or at least I haven't seen it, where some of the accounts were compromised and you had to,
Oh, yeah.
came officially from Backblaze. You have to go in there and change your password.
Yeah, that's a great point too. There's a lot of controversy around that one too. What's your take, Sam?
No, I was just going to say, I remember that communication, and I think the communication was poor too because of the way they sent it out, right? Like, I forget their wording that they use that confused people even more.
Yeah, so they found, my understanding is they, just like all these other companies do, they probably search these databases of passwords, like using hashes, I'm assuming. And if they detect that you're using a password that has been compromised, maybe it was used by someone else 10 years ago, but the password's in a database of known passwords to try, they want to prevent you from, falling prey to a credential stuffing attack, right? So they send out an email proactively saying, hey, like, we have reason to believe that your password is maybe not the best, and so you should, and they sent out a password reset email to those people. Then they widened the scope and sent it out to, I think, like, ultimately everyone who wasn't using MFA, but with the same wording, like, your password is found in a breach or something.
Yeah.
And so that was the confusing part. And so then those people were like, hey, listen, Backblaze, I use a password manager. Like, I have a password that there's no way this has ever ended up in a breach unless you were breached. So were you breached and you're not admitting it? Like, what the hell's going on? And like, they're in Reddit, like due to like our miscommunication, like whatever, they're answering people like saying, sorry, we kind of botched the communication around this, but here's what happened. They did explain some of those technical details, but yeah, I mean, it just seems sloppy.
What a mess.
Like, it just seems really sloppy.
Heads are gonna roll. Someone's getting fired.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
this is the state of the world. We live in mediocrity.
Well,
They're
true,
in
but
a couple.
what usually
Preach,
happens is
brother.
someone usually has to be the fall person or fall guy for it, is what I mean. It's like, yes, we live in mediocrity, I agree, but like, they end up just saying, here's a head that you can use to yell at and he'll be gone,
Yeah, nobody at Apple's going to fall on their sword for the AI. So, you'll in a week, you'll get a survey. How did we do?
How did we do? That I did get that from Backblaze, because I contacted them about one of these initial reports from a client, saying, oh, I got this pop-up on my screen, before I knew that this was, everybody had the pop-up, So I contacted support, and support said, here's our instructions. The very next day, how did we do? I'm like, you didn't do. That's the problem, is you didn't do. You pushed out an update that cost me a lot of time, and it probably cost some data. Like, there's people that are not backing up. They might have lost. Okay, they didn't lose all their data, but they don't have backups for the last few days. Like, that's going to affect somebody. So yeah,
nightmares.
Terrible. Yeah, really. And I don't know about that whole password. Like, that's my understanding, but is there another shoe to drop there? I don't
Likely.
know. Yeah. It's really, I don't know. It's frustrating.
Well, you mentioned 4 separate things, right? The passwords, the 3 separate issues, so it's
an update that won't update, an update that won't back up. They're still working on fixing that, I hope. In the meantime, we have 2 different methods of remediation. Well, at least through Adigy. One is using a monitoring item to detect it. This is thanks to Tim Pearson. He shared this with me last night and I think it's on Slack as well, that if you see this version installed, the one we know has this problem on the Mac, then you run, the rest of these commands basically to like
deinstall it.
Yeah. Reinstall the older version.
Roll it back.
And that fixes it. And so, it's great that we have a tool in place like Adigy to be able to do a remediation like that. Adam Rice shared in Slack also another way to do it with Flex software and an installer and stuff.
And Tim stated to Backblaze on the Slack channel, please once you fix this, don't name the version
Yeah.
the same.
Right. Because our remediations are looking for that version, and we're going to just roll back what you
It's
just
like,
fixed. And
no one's thinking, it doesn't appear up till now that, and I don't see anything that's indicating that they are going to, but no one's thinking in our best interest of people doing that type of management.
The fact that we've lost trust so much in them that you have to call out, please don't rename a new version with the same name of the bad one. I mean, that's just
It's a great point.
Yeah.
But I mean, the fact that he said that is fantastic because I mean,
bad that we have to,
wow.
or that he has to, rather.
Exactly. I mean, actually, I wouldn't have thought of that, but I'm really glad he thought
Exactly.
of that.
Yeah.
Like to your point, it's like, oh, I actually don't trust that they wouldn't just do that, and then now it's all screwed up. Like,
Right.
Wow. Yeah. That is so sad, though. I mean, man, I still recommend them. Like, I don't know of a better option. I'm sure we're going to hear about them, but
we're going to call them Backblaze.
Carbon.
Breaking Backblaze.
Breaking Backblaze. I like it.
Show
title.
Nice. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to another episode of Command Control Power. And let us know your thoughts and feedback about anything we talked about on this episode or any other episode at commandcontrolpower.com. And we'd also love to hear from you through Patreon if you are a supporter. We have lots of great content there for you as well, including a recent episode where we talk about a client experience that Jerry and I had. So check us out on Patreon and support us there by going to commandcontrolpower.com and click on support. Thanks, everybody, for listening.